Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Are you ready for some wisdom bombs to be dropped on your ass? I hope you are. If you're not, then you're at the wrong stream, because this is where we drop the knowledge bombs on your ass.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
Unbelievable these days. So, where are we in the book and what are we going to find next? Well, in the book we have discovered we did a little review of because we've introduced a new name, or really three new names, to the lineage that you are in. Being here, you are a member of this lineage now. Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascus. They are three teachers of the Platonic Academy. Before Emperor Fuckface McGee, Christian Emperor Justinian shut down the academy, burnt the libraries, killed people who wanted to think for themselves and understand the meaning of life and reach it, and solve problems. He didn't like people solving problems and thinking for themselves, so he shut down the academy, ushering in a period of history we call the Dark Ages. So that's the turning point, 529 AD, where we embraced Aristotle. Hello, welcome. You've come at the right time. We are giving a quick rundown of the history of philosophy up until now, so you can become familiar with the key names, the key figures. Philosophy isn't supposed to be esoteric or just for academic brainiacs.
Oh boy, that is a little weird.
That would be a little bit weird, so we're going to make it easy. Is this your usual content? Yes, I have a music stream that you can check out if you want to talk philosophy and listen to some tunes. Hey, welcome. But on this channel, we understand the meaning of life, understanding, how to solve problems, and how to understand if it's the meaning of life, it's also the structure of how to think and learn. It's also the spiritual quest. So all other spiritual traditions just take bits and pieces of this. This is the whole thing, which is neat. In other words, it's not secret or esoteric. You don't have to do kung fu with some monks or shave your head or sit under a waterfall. You can just have fun reading a book that bangs really, really hard and learn to read in a new kind of a way, different from school. At school, they teach you to interpret. What do you feel like this book means? In other words, interpretation is projecting your beliefs onto the text that aren't there, or leaving out what is there. So we're learning to see clearly, which is reading, which allows us to see clearly also ourselves, which is the goal. To see ourselves, a state of self where you see simply and clearly what is. And you can also use that state of clear seeing to experience mind directly. That's the enlightenment experience, or your mind knowing itself as eternity. So that's what normally people would consider the spiritual experience, but of course that state of self is beyond that, because it's beyond even experience. My fan's hitting the wall. Hang on a second. So logos is the fact that we can understand reality, language, reason. That's the logos. And of course the self logos means that there is an inherent rationality in the self that's beyond even experience, but allows you as pure self to have various experiences. The greatest experience is experiencing mind itself, or that intelligibility or knowability of the self all at once. I know everything all at once. That's the spiritual experience. And if you don't have understanding, you may confuse it as the meaning of life, like Taoists do. They have that symbol. That's the spiritual world, or world of being. That's what we study in philosophy, because it's the model for our physical world. Our physical world experiences that self-logos in time, bits by bits. or as a manyness. Now you can experience the physical world that we normally experience through our physical senses. There is an ability to experience it as a whole. That's called the whole self, not the whole self, the whole soul, because mind is embodied. That's the soul. And embodied, an eminded body is the soul. So those are the levels of reality. We wake up down here, and if you're lucky, you can ask the question, what the fuck am I doing? What's the purpose of this existence? Why is there so much apparent irrationality and injustice in the world? Why do I repeat the same problems over and over again? And just because I was raised in my house with my mummy and daddy, and I learn all my ideas and roles and images from these people, well, doesn't mean they're right. The parents next door are wrong. The parents across the street are wrong. What did they fill me with? And how do I free myself from my false beliefs and problems to become free to discover the truth of self up here, the truth of my mind, and master understanding so I function most ideally in this world? So I can use that understanding to understand the meaning of life, my excellence, how to solve problems, how to be a good noodle. So those are the 3 levels. And they all have self-logos in different senses, in time or in parts through understanding. That's what we're here to master. That's learning. That's also the spiritual task, because the way of using the self-logos through time or understanding is the dialectic. It's a skill. It's a skill you can learn and you can ingrain into your soul. And just like other things you learn, eventually you will see through it, which is a preparation for you to reach the doorway of pure intelligence. So it's also a meditation. The meditation, really. All other things take bits and pieces, like Zen takes the idea of having a question that you need to uncover in your understanding, which is why we read the books that we read. Because the books outline a whole bunch of stuff reflecting the logos. So Socrates and Pierre Grimes are 2 people who've mastered the logos. That's why we read their stuff. And if you carry that question, you need to carry a question to apply the dialectic 4 categories of reasoning about something. So it's the meditation, but hey, Zen has koans. They give you a question. What is the sound of one hand clapping? If a tree falls in the woods and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? Now these are fake questions, because they're supposed to keep you in that curious state. You can't answer them. But we don't need them because we have real questions. We don't need a fake one. We are curious about reality, and we are curious about ourselves. And the other thing that we're curious about is our problems caused by our beliefs. So, any yoga or meditation will be an element of the dialectic. So whether it's the question holding of Zen koans, or if it's the focused attention of, I don't know, focusing on a candle, whether it's keeping your cool and not going off on tangents, which is involved in a lot of breath work, it's all just parts. So we're understanding the whole of the spiritual tradition and the learning tradition. So we can understand the meaning of life, because we wake up here, we wake up as Mario, and we want to know, hang on a second, what's the goal? You have to know our goal is to save the princess. How do we do it? We need to know that we have an A button and a B button. That's what we're doing here. Learning the goal and learning how to do it. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
So, why are we in the mess that we're in right now? Why do we not do this every day at school? Good question. Well, this dialectic, which is the activity of learning and using the self-logos in the physical world, or the world of becoming, because everything is coming to be or decaying. The spiritual world we call being, because it's eternal. It's It's not a physical thing. Its nature is ousia, or mind turning around to know itself. So the dialectic, that's what we're here to do. It has 4 aspects. Here we go. Move these. Yeah. Now you can apply the dialectic or step-by-step reasoned reflection, either by yourself or with a friend.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Because it's not a solo quest, you can find others in the game. You can apply the dialectic to understand the truth. That's what we're doing. So we just did. Outlined a true model that now it's no good just believing me. You need to, read the book and outline it and develop your own questions and make these little diagrams yourself and tell your friends about it over coffee. Cheers. That's the dialectic applied to understanding the truth. Now, you're not going to be able to do that unless you also are addressing the false beliefs you learn from childhood that you have to take to survive, or you don't have to, but you normally take to survive your upbringing, your false beliefs from mummy and daddy that also reflect the religion and culture around you. Those false beliefs give you a role within the family. And of course, they're always inconsistent with understanding. If you could understand, you wouldn't have to believe someone else. So those beliefs we get are called the pathologos, sick logos. Self-logos is the good one, pathologos the bad one. And then from those false beliefs, we derive a self-image. This must be me. It's not true, but it's the character that stars in your daydreams and your tangents and your night dreams and your fantasies. Your life is a playing out of the tragic implications of you identifying with this guy. It's negative. So whenever you seek higher goals that reflect the logos, understanding, excellence, knowing for yourself, your own goals and not being a slave or a follower, you will find the voice of the pathologos coming in as negative self-talk. So the voice of the self in the Greek is called daimon, and this false self voice that says that you suck, you're not good enough, you can't do it, how can you know the meaning of life, surely you're just a dude. If there was a meaning of life, my daddy would know it, or my preacher would know it, or my imam would know it, or my rabbi would know it, and those fuckers don't know it, so how can I know it? It must be wrong. All of this crap, not true. You're great. That's what we're here to see, that you are not only divine, you are God. God that is the cause of the eternal realm of pure mind or being. So, anything that diminishes the self is false in principle, but also is a clue, because the main reason we're here as a reincarnated soul is to trace down that false belief and image of ourself, the false that prevents our development through these spiritual realms to higher levels of existence, and meeting Socrates where he is and wondering where he's going after that. So in other words, when we die, this is well documented, we experience the brilliant light of being, or the light at the end of the tunnel. That's mind knowing itself. But if you haven't done the work of removing your false image, you'll think, well, that's too beautiful to be me. You won't be able to endure that experience, or you'll see it as good and you'll decide, I want to reincarnate so I can recognize that this brilliant luminosity is actually me. You can't do that if you think that you're less than. So we're here to address that false belief that causes us to play out our reincarnation and suffer all of the effects of our previous lifetimes. So there's a kind of balance. If you don't address those false beliefs, you will act unjustly. If you don't challenge mummy and daddy and the surrounding religious and political and social beliefs, you will become a Trump. or a Netanyahu, or a Hitler, or a fascist, or a Nazi, or a KKK, or an ICE. In other words, you'll be a fucker, doing injustice, inflicting the same kind of injustice that was inflicted on you when you were a child in your family. You will do injustice to others and to yourself. And you will spend your whole life becoming more and more entrenched in that self-image. You will project your problems on others. Everyone's treating me this way. And what's interesting is, as a response to right the wrong that you are projecting, you will do that very thing back. So it's easy to see with right-wingers or fascists. They say, everyone's attacking me, the white man. They're all calling me a Nazi. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna Nazi their asses. I'm gonna do ICE shit and kidnap people and put them in concentration camps. In other words, it becomes a cycle, a stagnant cycle of suffering. You think everyone's doing to that. Trump says everyone's out to get him, while Trump is murdering people he doesn't like. The very thing, so there's a saying in politics from people who are, there is no Republican or right-wing party, it's just the pathologos. It's a pathologos group of people, that's it. It's not it doesn't meet the conditions of a political party. It doesn't have a model or paradigm. That's why they're always, contradicting themselves. It doesn't seek to benefit the subjects. Can you imagine if a doctor did surgery not to benefit the patient, but to benefit him? He would lose his license. That would be terrible. So what they are actually is a pathologos group. And there's a saying that for the right, every accusation is a confession. That's right. They're going to do it. They project their problem, and then they do their problem. Now, everyone is in that game. That's why we have a moral to some level, some more than others, of course. Which is interesting. Those who grow up in privilege and wealth never have an occasion to reflect, so they can always escape reflection. So they become the worst people in the world. But we all have a moral and ethical and spiritual obligation to do the dialectic, to surface and address the false beliefs and images that cause our mask that we wear, our self-images, and our cycles of injustice to ourselves and others. That activity is called philosophical midwifery. So, the dialectic to find the truth, philosophy, and you can't surface your problems unless you're doing that first one. Because problems are only a problem if it blocks your development through the logos. If you're being blocked from hurting yourself, that's not a block. So you have to be seeking the truth in philosophy, mastering the dialectic, applying it to these texts that we read to surface questions that get you curious, and using the dialectic to create your own hypotheses that you don't identify with. You carry it in a sack to see if it pans out, and you can create many hypotheses. You can do many dialectics. So to be on the quest is to carry questions and also ifs. Q's and ifs, questions and hypotheses. As you do that, you will surface, so the questions and the hypotheses don't come from your own beliefs, they come from the book. So the book gives you the clues. Just like if you play Resident Evil and you need to find the blue key, you can't bring a blue key in with you from another game. That's crazy. You need to find the blue key in the game. So you have to surface the questions and the clues in the text. No beliefs, no interpretations, none of that crap. Not, Harry Potter means Jesus to me. No, that's not in the book. You're just bringing that with you. That's interpretation. You're not seeing. Equally so, the questions and the clues about what's false come from our life as we pursue these texts. The question is, how come I keep telling myself I can't do it? How come I keep saying there's something better to do than read this awesome book that we read together here? It's a question. Why do I have problems? It's not a koan. You don't have to accept it from some guru. You're naturally curious. It's your natural koan. Your puzzles that you suffer from is your natural koan. Because you're curious about it because you want to get rid of it. The clues you get for your hypotheses to solve it are the negative words, the feeling states, the images that manifest as tangents or blocks or negative self-talk. So as you do this, you're also, as you read, you create questions like, what is beauty itself? Or self-beauty? And every time you come across something in the book that talks about self-beauty, you take some notes. When you've got enough notes, you can craft those notes or clues into a dialectic, which is a structure of reasoning that has 4 parts. Definition, so there's 2 ideas. Dialectic has 2, self and other, or subject and other. Which of these clues are about if beauty exists? What can you say about the subject, beauty, in relation to itself, just itself? The next is demonstration. How does beauty function to another? And you can pick the other, maybe you. How does beauty affect me, a philosophical soul seeking the truth of beauty? Demonstration. Now, having been affected, you, here, the other, having been affected by beauty, how do you relate to others? How do you relate to your friends? Do you tell them about what you've been reading? That there is an understanding of beauty itself that culminates in the direct experience, which is experienced as bliss, demystifying spirituality, and you get to go and experience it yourself, separating your soul from the body. Having been affected by your conversation, how do those others relate back to beauty itself? Others back to self. That's the conclusion. So how do either you or them, or both of you, relate back to beauty? Do you then study these books together, have a reading group, tune into the stream together and have fun and drink coffee? So 4 categories to organize the clues about anything you're interested in, like beauty, or self-logos is a good one. But you also have to do the exact same thing for what if beauty doesn't exist? So if it is and if it isn't. So create a universe if beauty doesn't exist. What would you say about beauty itself? You might say something like, it's just an illusion. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's just a perspective. And then equally so, how does that illusion affect people? It tricks you to mate with the hottest women. How do others relate to others? Beauty is an illusion, and marketers use it to trick people into buying Coca-Cola. How do people then relate back to beauty, having been tricked to buy Coke because there's a sexy woman next to the Coke can? They think, oh, beauty sucks. I'm never going to pursue true beauty. It's all an illusion. It's all garbage. So that's a universe if beauty wasn't existing eternally in the realm of being. So you got to do both. And equally so, you do the same sort of organization with the art of the dialectic on the clues that surface to block you from doing that. All the ones that says that you suck and you can't do it. It's garbage. You can do it. You're literally here to do it. It would be a crazy, unjust world if you couldn't. Now, don't take that as a challenge. Well, I'm not going to do it to prove that the world is unjust. No, do it anyway. You need to develop courage and open-mindedness and character to stay in the game, even when your false beliefs tell you that you suck or give up. So that's the dialectic applied to the truth in the text and applied to freeing yourself from those false beliefs. Philosophical midwifery, giving birth to those sick ideas, or philosophy. True philosophy. Now we're going to look at how modern philosophy isn't this and why it's not this, and how because it's not this we have the terrible shit that we are suffering from in our world. Nazis and capitalism and war and all that stuff. We don't need any of that, but that's an implication of what happened after Socrates, because we killed Socrates And instead of listening to him, we listened to Aristotle, who rejected all of this. So there you go. But you can't do the dialectic applied to the true and the false unless you're also applying the dialectic to your dreams you have every night, because your dreams give you the clues and information that you need that will help you. It's your guide to doing these two things. So the true, the false, and the both. Dream analysis is essential. That's why there's a saying, if you want to get a girlfriend or marry someone, pick a girl who can do both. Which means dream analysis. So every morning you can roll over and say, hey baby, what did you dream about? Because those dreams will reflect the block she's here to free herself from and the highest purpose and excellence she can achieve. And you can practice the dialectic by asking her questions that takes her through a structure of ordered reflection to find the message in the dreams. Her first take on her dreams is going to be wrong. In fact, her first take is likely going to reflect her problem. But after going through this reflection over coffee and eggs, she will come to an insight and she will say, you are the smartest man. I'm glad I picked you. That's love and logos. Love and logos. In fact, we have a Socrates was led through to his first enlightenment experience in that method that we see in the symposium. Diotima showed him how to see beauty of physical bodies and then beauty of the soul, and how to have this kind of reflection with a beautiful soul. So when you see, when you're able to transcend physical beauty and see that there's an even higher level of beauty in the soul, there's steps. There's dialectical steps to see beauty of one body, beauty of two or more or many bodies, to see the principle of bodies, or the principle to, eventually you'll see that if you go through these stages in the symposium, where Socrates gives an account of his conversation with his teacher Diotima, a lady, an enlightened lady. So, we destroyed the sexists by showing that Socrates' teacher was a woman. Yes, so from one beautiful body to many beautiful bodies. The French call that a ménage à trois, I believe.
It's sad, and I'm sad for you.
If you're experiencing a mental health episode, we don't want to have to see that.
Sorry, I won't make jokes like that.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you.
I'm sorry, I deserve that. To the principle of beauty in all bodies, and then, of course, there's another level. Oh, and you have to add logos. Make beautiful speeches about your beloved. The next level is seeing beauty in the souls, and then sharing logos, dialectic, that can benefit that soul. And if you see someone with a beautiful soul, you'll willingly take body and soul together. And of course, there are some levels after that. That's the Diotima, eventually reaching experience of beauty itself, or truth. That's this realm of being as a whole. And Diotima says, hey, now you're just beginning. Once you've gone through those stages to elevate your soul out of the physical realm to see beauty itself here, now you have what you need, because this is the model of beauty and truth and justice. You can use this to create true self-excellence. Now, Plato writes about this conversation that Socrates has with Diotima, but Plato leaves the conversation there, which is why we say that Socrates reaches this level of philosophical development, while Plato reaches here. Now, one of Plato's students was Aristotle. He drew a line here that only the physical world, says Aristotle. There's no realm of being, and there's definitely no realm beyond that of the self. So Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, those are the big three. And that's why Plato, who was his teacher, kicked him out of the school. Says, you are not getting it at all. Get the hell out of here. And modern philosophy is in the tradition of Aristotle. So he went on to teach Alexander the Great, and that we can call that the Roman tradition or the Aristotelian tradition. That's materialism. There's just the material world. And if most philosophers on YouTube are Stoic philosophers. Stoic philosophy is using the language of metaphysics, or even the language of the self, Socrates, but usually the language of metaphysics, but getting rid of the metaphysics, only applying it to the physical world. That's Stoics. So courage isn't about what you need to develop to reach here. No, courage is about being a big tough man and drinking Alpha Blast and doing push-ups every day and then doing a cold plunge. That kind of crap. So the manosphere and the Rogan sphere and the Peterson sphere and all that shit. That's all just Aristotle. So, dialectic applied to knowing the truth. That's why we read these banger books that bang so hard, your grandchildren will have CTE.
Well, you're doing your best.
Very funny stuff. And the work that you do with friends or, or on your own with your dreams, normally you need to talk to someone. That's midwifery, removing what's false. Dream analysis is for both. And the fourth, notice, 4 elements, reflecting the 4, self to self, self to others, others to others, others back to self. So it's a dialectic on the dialectic. It's dialectic all the way down, baby. Sharing it. It's no good keeping this to yourself. Can you share it with your friends? Can you recognize that self-logos, or the intelligible structure of reality that you can move through in your own personal development? Can you apply that to the stories that you make, the art that you make, the music that you make, the anime you make? The main character, the MC of your animated universe, your anime, can go through stages of perfecting his ninjutsu. That is a metaphorical, it's a mythology, it's not literal, it's an analogy or a metaphor to represent all of these elements of metaphysics and the soul's journey through it. Share it with people. Make it fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike?
Make it joyful and whimsical. So those are the 4 elements of the dialectic. So why do we have none of them in our culture, in our schools? Why are we not doing dream analysis in every single classroom before morning tea? Why do we not spend the rest of the day doing philosophy and midwifery? And then the afternoon expressing it through the arts that we're interested in? Why is it just training us to be mindless zombie slaves to make material wealth for capitalists? And therefore we still have Nazi problems and fascist problems and environmental problems. In other words, we're not learning what we need to do to solve all problems. Why are we living in a fucked, unjust world? If we, Socrates, had all of those things? That's the question we're looking at now. So, who are the big names? Homer is the beginning. And I'm waiting for my blackboard to catch up.
I've been a bad little girl.
The blackboard's being bad.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
So am I. Catch up, blackboard. There it is. So the background, so like around, 4,000 BC, 3,000 BC, that area. Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. That's mythology, showing the main character Achilles going through philosophical midwifery and dream analysis to reach excellence. And in the Odyssey, Odysseus, who has a level of wisdom, has to go back and address his problems. Because it's two different things. Just because you have an experience of truth or wisdom or reality doesn't make you problem-free. Because they are two different things. And of course, in anime, we see this archetype, the pervy sage. Goku's teacher and Naruto's teacher, and most anime characters have a wise sage teacher who also has problems. The pervy sage, or the gambling sage, or the drunken sage. Because it's two different activities, you need to do both. And Odysseus is someone who was already wise, but has to go back through a journey to do philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. So that's in Homer. The first philosopher that we have text from is a guy named Xenophanes, and you know he rocks because his name starts with X. The most badass of all letters in the alphabet.
They're secretly turned on by it.
Exactly. And all we have from him is a question or a koan you can carry with you. What is the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking right now? Or some translations have it as, it's the whole of God that is seeing, hearing, and thinking right now. So if you didn't get wrapped up in the particulars of sight, or distinguishing foreground from background, but try to view vision itself as a whole, and same thing for the sounds you hear, can you perceive your sounds as a whole? And thinking, can you not get wrapped up in any particular thought, but see thinking as a whole? And can you put all three of them together? Because it's happening right now. Can you view seeing, hearing, and thinking as a whole right now? If you can, that might have the effect of mitigating the effect or lessening the effect of your problem, your false beliefs, and might give you a freedom to have an insight into what the true nature of self is. So that's what we got from Xenophanes. Not much, but pretty cool. He taught Parmenides. Parmenides and Diotima, who I talked about, giving the yoga or spiritual method of love and logos, pursuing beauty with understanding to go through the steps of spiritual and personal development. That's Diotima in the Symposium, and Parmenides in the Parmenides. So those are the two names after Xenophanes and Homer. Parmenides and Diotima, a dude and a lady. Yes, ladies can reach enlightenment. And of course, the Odyssey, the main hero in the Odyssey isn't Odysseus, it's Penelope. So giving the archetypal hero or the excellence of a human being who is a woman or the ideal woman. So Parmenides and Diotima taught Socrates, he's the big dog, and here is where everything went wrong. Socrates had all three. He had philosophy, philosophical midwifery. He coined the name actually because his mum was a midwife of babies. Dream analysis, and he was about to share this in creating mythology, but we killed him. The state killed him. Because that's what the pathologos does. That's why fascists and Nazis go after people who understand and think. That's why all the fascist Twitch people hate Hassan Piker, because he personifies understanding. Our problem blocks us from understanding. So here's Socrates giving us the understanding that we need to solve all human problems, or go from sickness to health, but also from health to excellence, create a utopia, and we fucking killed the guy. Now, we killed him when his student Plato was in his 20s, before he was able to midwife Plato. And the reason we killed Socrates was because he didn't follow the official religions of Homer. And if Homer had philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, and he's the reason why Socrates killed, then I'll be fucked if I'm using midwifery and dream analysis to solve human problems, said Plato. So he dropped he dropped midwifery and dream analysis. That's Plato. So Plato was Socrates' student. He kept the philosophy part, but he dropped midwifery and dream analysis, the two things needed to solve problems. He created the first universities in the West, called the Academy in Athens. Okay, the subsequent teachers at the university, the three big names that we can know, the last three philosophers really, Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascus. All three of them added to the dialectic, added to the understanding of the dialectic applied to philosophy or metaphysics, but again, no midwifery, no dream analysis. And then after these guys came Emperor Fuckhead, Christian Emperor Justinian, who established the Christian Church and killed all of the philosophers, burnt down the libraries, killed the philosophers, burnt down the library, shut down the academy, and brought in a period where everything went to shit called the Dark Ages. One of Plato's students was Aristotle. We talked about him. The materialist, he was blocked from metaphysics, and because Plato didn't have midwifery or dream analysis, he couldn't help Aristotle overcome his problems, giving us the Roman tradition, eventually joining forces with these, the Catholic Church, or the Christian Church, and Aristotle's materialism, giving us our modern tradition. We have no one's doing dialectics at school, but instead we are copying the model from the church. Professors are called that because they profess the faith. If you study Plato at university, you don't read the book. You don't get taught how to read. You get given official interpretations. And because everyone has pathologos, and not everyone has mastered the logos, every fucking translation is going to be garbage. So they feed you the ignorance of translators instead of teaching you how to read, like we do here. While they profess the faith, and your job as a good student is to use rote, repetition, and then regurgitate their own dumbass beliefs back to them, and you'll get a degree. So PhD is an acronym for piled higher and deeper, as in shit. Ever notice that philosophers ain't solving human problems? All they do is debate. In other words, what's debate? Here are my stupid opinions, I'm going to yell them at you, and then you yell your opinions back at me. We don't come together, we don't come to insight, we don't develop understanding, we don't solve problems, we just walk away more entrenched in our bullshit beliefs that we walked in with because we've just been made to defend them. Fascism. Charlie Kirk. Trump. Netanyahu. Debate. That's where we are. Modern philosophy, a manyness of opinions engaged in debate, conflict, and ignorance. That's what we have to awaken from as individuals and as a culture. Now, Socrates didn't call these people philosophers. Philosophia means love of wisdom. There are three stages that Socrates talked about. Philomathesis, loving learning. You can remember that because if you love to learn, you might do a thesis on your math homework. So learning about the physical world, and then eventually you realize, holy shit, whether I'm learning about, botany or chemistry or even political problems, I'm not going to be able to really understand them unless I acknowledge there are principles and axioms and causes of the physical world that transcends the physical world. In other words, we see things like beauty as adjectives everywhere, but we never see beauty itself. We can say 1 and 1 equals 2, and we have to take that for granted, but we can't prove that in the physical world. You've never seen a physical 1 or a physical 2. Equally so in politics. We talk about justice, but what's the paradigm of justice so that we can apply justice to every state, every culture, every planet, every universe, in every multiverse? Unlike modern politicians who just contradict themselves and, yeah, fuckers. So, when you realize that there are principles and causes and preconditions that have to exist eternally to be applied to all physical things, you've gone from philomathesis to philosophy. Philosophy is philosophia, love of, Sophia, wisdom. Philos means love, Sophia means wisdom. Wisdom is understanding this, which is metaphysics. When you apply a mythology to metaphysics, you have theology. Theology isn't literally Jesus in the clouds and God making rain because he takes a piss. That's stupid. That's called barbarianism for the Greeks. To take theology literally, it's a metaphorical or a personification of these principles that you are supposed to understand. That's theology. You don't only understand them, but that understanding, like we said, is also meditation or the spiritual tradition, which is why Socrates says many are the staff bearers, people who carry a staff and call themselves mystics or spiritual, but the only true mystics are philosophers, because it's the only one that has understanding. That's the logos. So, understanding of metaphysics or theology, as well as, because it's meditation at the same time, dialectic, you get to experience it. You get to go to the party and have a good time. That one's perfect.
I'm too pure.
And too pure. You get to experience it. So, we're demystifying spirituality. Not just for the monks, it's for all of us. It's experiencing this. When you have an experience of that, that's called knowledge with a capital K, or nous in the Greek. When you have knowledge and understanding is called dianoia in the Greek. When you have understanding and experience, that's wisdom. So philosophy is the love of wisdom. That's what it is. Meaning, modern philosophers ain't philosophers by definition. They're just not. They're Aristotelian materialists. And of course, when you realize that, hang on a second, I'm experiencing beauty and justice and goodness all at once, but it exists. It has existence. It has some sort of power to maintain itself, to cause the physical world, and for me to experience it. And there's some sort of activity that it's going through in knowing itself, in recognizing itself. This is a manyness. Now, you don't experience it as a manyness, you experience it as a oneness, but intellectually, when you come back into your body, you can dialectic or understand it as a manyness of qualities, meaning a unity or a oneness, meaning there has to be a pre-existing condition. For there to be a oneness, there has to be a one. Another kind of dialectic you can do is, hang on a second, while this is the greatest experience, there is still a self experiencing it. The one self. Now that state of the self, Socrates calls philophronesis, the clear, pure seeing from the state of self. So, love of learning, philomathesis, love of wisdom, philosophy, and philophronesis, love of the self. None of them is in modern philosophy. They are lying when they they're ignorant when they call themselves philosophers. What does Socrates call modern philosophers? Well, if you go to school and you learn philosophy, or you talk to a philosophy bro, or you turn into a YouTube philosophy podcast, they're debating their dumbass opinions. I like Kant's opinions. I like Hegel's opinions. Adam Smith's opinions of capitalism are great. Marx's opinions are great too. It's just a collection of opinion and a manyness of opinions. Modern philosophy. That's called a lover of opinion, or philodoxia. Modern philosophers are philodoxias from the tradition of Aristotle, falling from Plato, which is a fall from Socrates because we didn't have midwifery and dream analysis. Before Socrates, Parmenides and Diotima. Before them, Xenophanes, and before them, Homer. So there's the lineage, and those are the names. And after Plato, there are only 3 more names: Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascus. These are all teachers at the academy before Emperor Justinian, fuckhead, killed them and shut down for manipulation of beliefs through Christianity. So, what if the dialectic is step-by-step reasoned reflection, either to do truth, philosophy, to remove problems, midwifery, or both, dream analysis, or shared in your art? If that's dialectic, what's the opposite of dialectic? Where you yell or lie to win a debate. Well, that's it, debate. They are debaters. Socrates calls them philonikos, lover of conflict. Philodoxia, love of opinions. Philonikos, love of conflict. That's modern philosophy. Now, if we need to be inspired to have that experience of pure beauty or bliss or excellence, which is the philos part of wisdom, philosophia, if you don't even think there is such a thing because you're an Aristotelian materialist, you don't actually think there is such a thing as mind or beauty or enlightenment or self, what do you end up loving and being motivated by in your life? Not for love of wisdom, philosomatos, soggy tomatoes, lover of the body. So the politicians and the clergy, again, manipulating people through beliefs and silencing understanding, because beliefs are the cause of our problems, because belief has to silence understanding, otherwise you wouldn't have to believe anyone. The guy with the funny hat, or dear leader, the guy with the crown. So what do these people do? These priests and political leaders? Well, release the Epstein files. In other words, they become addicted to bodily pleasures and injustice. Sadism, because they can't have actual knowing, which is needed to help people. You can't do surgery unless you have understanding and knowledge of the model, but you can torture people. You can pretend to be a surgeon. That's called being a torturer. George Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Trump, Netanyahu, all of these fascists, and all of the rich tradition of priests and imams and rabbis who torture and abuse people, justify genocides, etc. They are pretending to be a knower without understanding or knowing or wisdom. That's called sadism, an addiction of hurting people, imitating their parents who hurt them. The cycle of ignorance, the cycle of pathologos. So, bodily pleasures and imitating injustice. Philosomatos, lover of the body. Philosomatos. And what do those people do? They get all the money. Philocrematos, cremated tomatoes, lover of wealth. And Philotimos, Tim has all of the likes on Instagram, lover of fame. So lovers of the body seek wealth or fame, not wisdom. Therefore, anyone who's not a philosopher shouldn't be any sort of spiritual authority. So no more religion, because religion is belief. That's what the word means. So spiritual leaders have to be actual philosophers with actual understanding and knowing, like every other profession in the fucking world. You can't be a surgeon unless you understand surgery. You can't fly a plane unless you understand how to fly a plane. Why the fuck can you be a priest or an imam or a rabbi if you don't have understanding, you just have belief? Can you walk into a dentist office and say, give me a hammer, I'm going to start bashing children's teeth in because I believe I'm a dentist? They'll say, get the fuck out of here, what are you, crazy? What do these priests and presidents, and equally so for political stuff? They don't have to show an understanding of justice or the logos. They can just say, I believe that the whites are the best. I believe immigrants. I believe billionaires should have everything. That's stupid. That's why we are in our mess. We have people who are lovers of the body, philomathesos, seeking power over people to play out their pathologos, false beliefs about what it means to be good, copying their parents because they don't have midwifery and dream analysis, and instead they seek wealth. Trump's making the big bucks. Netanyahu's getting that good real estate when he bombs everyone in Palestine. And fame. Trump wants everyone to be talking about him all the time. Netanyahu wants to be considered the savior of the Jews. Bullshit, but that's where we are. Lover of wealth, lover of fame, lovers of the body, because of materialism and philosophy becoming actually philodoxia, love of opinions, philonikos, love of conflict, following Aristotle, the materialist who rejects everything, rejects metaphysics, dialectic applied to truth, rejects dream analysis and midwifery, hasn't even heard of it, and doesn't do a mythology, of course, because that requires you to be talking about metaphysics. That's Aristotle in conjunction with the Christian church founded by Emperor Justinian at the Dark Ages. That's where we are. And of course, Plato is where we lost dream analysis and midwifery. Here's the first spam of the day. Go away. And Plato rejects midwifery and dream analysis because we killed Socrates in front of him. And that's the turning point in human history. The trial and execution of Socrates before he wrote anything down or did mythology. That's where we are. But fortunately, in around 1920-ish, there was a philosopher who was quite fantastic, who rediscovered philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, allowing him to remove the false beliefs he had, allowing him to read the dialogues we have of Socrates, rediscovering philosophy by reinventing midwifery and dream analysis. Fortunately, that philosopher did the fourth thing as well, mythology, re-enlivening or reawakening our spiritual task, what human beings need. Now, the dialectic is mythologized as Prometheus giving the gift of fire and the dialectic to mankind to allow us to escape the inevitable extinction of our planet if we play out our false beliefs the way we're doing now. We can solve our problems with the dialectic. That was the gift Prometheus gave man. That's the golden age. That's the spiritual tradition. That's the meaning of life. And we could only see that because there was a philosopher who rediscovered this, allowing him to read Socrates without his beliefs influencing him and projecting his old dumb opinions onto it. That philosopher was named Pierre Grimes. He was also appointed Buddha of the Korean Buddhist line because he was able to have all of the enlightenment experiences of Buddhism, but transcended all of the other Buddhists because he also had understanding. Showing, so a master of philosophy and also a spiritual guru. So fortunately, we got all three back, and that same dude was able to write books, giving us mythology. He was able to share it. That allows humanity to turn ourselves around, solve our problems individually and collectively, going from sickness to health, using that healthy state of being to reach excellence. That's the true. being able to do both of those things through dream analysis and even passing it on and writing books ourselves. The name of that philosopher was Pierre Grimes, and the book we're reading is the last book he published before he passed away a few years ago. A fucking masterpiece. If the dialectic is the gift to mankind from the gods through Prometheus, surely this book is perhaps, well, is an example of equally a gift from the gods, allowing us to wake up to our problems, address the causes, understand and address the causes of all human problems and suffering, and reach our excellence. If we don't, we go extinct. If we do, holy fuck, imagine what we could do. Not just for our race, but because everything we've said here reflects true principles, we can be ambassadors to other races in other dimensions, in other galaxies for all time. And the works that we write and create, to quote Socrates, can rival even Homer and Hesiod and be works that can last in mankind and be objects of reflection for 1,000 years. We can give birth not to babies, but to this kind of mythology. And we happen to be reading just such a book. That's why we say this book bangs the fucking hardest and the most consistently, so much that your grandchildren will have CTE, the brain damage from doing MMA. So that's where we are. Those are the 4 elements. That's why we can do it now. These are the big names in the tradition. And down here is why we are currently not doing it. So that's where we are. And in the book that bangs the hardest, we ended last time with Socrates. Well, every fucking paragraph in this book is a banger. If you're not ready for some wisdom to be dropped on your ass, prepare your ass, because that's what we do here, because this book is amazing. And hopefully that review is a sufficient summary to understand why this book bangs so fucking hard. Let me turn on my trackpad. So, yeah, maybe I should clip that and just keep that as a standalone video. So that was me doing a little review from our new follower in chat, for our new follower in chat, but it's worth reviewing. That's part of reading. Got to review it as well. Now, where's my trackpad? Oh, because I turned it off. Turn it on again. There we go. And now why? Single page continuous. There we go. So how long are we? About an hour in. So maybe I'll clip the last hour and just post it on my YouTube. You can go back through any of the old videos on YouTube, post them on YouTube too. It's all good stuff. So here we are. Whoops. No, we're not there. Right down here. We are at page 162. So, take everything we've just said, keep it in mind, and let's read the last thing that Socrates said. So keep everything in mind, and let's read the last thing that Socrates says. Come on, Socrates. Where are you? There you are. Socrates. He sounds like this. Let's see what you're asking, Jesus. Oh, and by the way, this is a play that everybody experiences after they die. It's a conversation between Socrates and Jesus in heaven. It starts for every soul at the beginning, and this is the mythology that reflects the self-logos, allowing us to master the dialectic, which we can personify as Hermes, because Hermes has the shoes that can race really fast to reach Zeus, or the self. The source of everything. Okay. And Socrates. So Jesus asks, have any of the later philosophers reached the final stage of your philosophy? And I just described one named Mr. Pierre Grimes. If not, could you explain where they still need to develop further, or what is needed to bring it to a fullness? Maybe you can as well. Socrates. Let's see what you're asking, Jesus. It is not a simple task, but with truth as our guide, I must oblige you, since the work that is the cornerstone of all these followers of mine is the Parmenides. So, remember, you have this lineage. Homer, Xenophanes, and then Parmenides was taught by Xenophanes. And Parmenides taught Socrates, and we have this dialogue. The dialogue is called the Parmenides, and now we have an actual translation because the translator, Juan Balboa, went through midwifery and dream analysis, allowing him to translate it properly. So if you're not reading the Balboa translation of this text, you aren't doing philosophy. But we can. So hooray for Juan Balboa and Pierre Grimes for doing that important work of dream analysis and midwifery with Juan Balboa.
The primary purpose of pools is not to murder. It is for enjoyment and cooling off.
Never thought about pools that way. Thank you, Emma, from the Majority Report. So that's Parmenides. That's what he's talking about here. The cornerstone. So this book is sometimes called the greatest book never read because Parmenides outlines the dialectic. Where we get the dialectic from. He says to Socrates, if you don't learn the dialectic, you won't reach truth. The worst condition of the soul is to give up on the dialectic. That's what you have to be on guard for. And Socrates says, can you give me an example of the dialectic? And thankfully, Socrates was a very clever guy, even at 19. When he traveled with his bros to meet Parmenides. I don't want an example of a dialectic or a full, complete understanding and meditation on beauty or justice or goodness or same and different or like and unlike or any of the aspects of being. This clever son of a bitch said, I want you to give me a dialectic on yourself. Parmenides said, and Parmenides' student Zeno, who was there, said, and they both together said,
Where's the passion, dude? Where's whore much?
He said, whore much?
It's sad. And I'm sad for you.
And they made fun of him. And Parmenides goes, I'm an old man. I'm 60 something. You want me, you have any idea what kind of a sea of logos it would be for me to do a dialectic on the highest term? You're crazy. Get out of here. It's like I'm a retired racehorse. Yes, you're asking me to return to that thing that I loved, but I'm retired now. Come on, get out of here. And Socrates said, all right then. I'll ask your student Zeno. Let's see if you're a decent teacher then. Come on, Zeno, you give a dialectic on the self. A complete intellectual breakdown of the self, which will therefore have to include everything that reflects every stage of enlightenment, every stage of human development, every stage of understanding, every stage of culture or epochs that humans go through, every possible religious tradition, every possible cultural belief or tradition, and how each of them have their own stages of insight and their own limitations. and how all of them are limited until you reach the ultimate or the first hypothesis to oneself. Meaning, it predates Christianity, but it gives a complete understanding of Christianity, all the problems it has, the levels of enlightenment it can and can't reach, the conflict it creates within the soul. Hundreds of years before Christianity even was invented. Meaning, if we read this book, we wouldn't have to go through the Dark Ages and the Crusades and horrible slavery and sexism and genocides and things. Because Socrates was so fucking clever to say, give me an example of the dialectic on the self. And because it's the paradigm of all possible ways of thinking, understanding, and being, it's called the greatest book never read. Thankfully, we have a decent translation and we can read it properly. And on this channel, early in this channel, we read the introduction and the first hypotheses. There are 9. The first hypothesis is about the self. Okay, I'll do a dialectic on the true nature of the self. Speaking from myself about myself, says Parmenides. And he picks the youngest person there to go through it, showing, hey, it's the dialectic, meaning you should be able to do it with anyone. It's steps of reasoned reflection. At every stage, you say, are you with me? If they say yes, you go to the next stage. If they say no, you break it down. So you do a dialectic on the part. Here is a definition. Do you understand it? No. Here's a demonstration or example. Do you understand it? No. Okay, here's division. I'm going to break it down to its steps. If it is, to show it has to be necessarily, or if it doesn't, to show that there's a contradiction or absurdity if it doesn't follow. And then from that, we come to a conclusion together. We synthesize. So conclusion has 2 parts. We synthesize our reflection or division, and then we analyze, which means we bring it back to the start. That's the conclusion. Now we're together in our definition. Now we can make the next step. See? Everyone can understand. It's not a fucking debate. It's not about tricking people to win points and own the libs or some bullshit like debate. It's fucking awesome. It's the dialectic. And Parmenides demonstrated in front of Socrates and us that if you're really good enough, you can do this with anyone. He picks out the youngest person in Socrates' crew. His name was Aristoteles, which means little Aristotle, by the way, and walks him through step by step the whole thing. At the end of this first hypothesis, the self, the one self, he explains a pure one that transcends even qualities, so transcends even being, because if you have 2 things, someone experiencing something, that's not a one. So he defines a pure one and says that's the self. And sometimes he defines a pure self and says that's the one that I'm talking about. It can't be different from yourself because that wouldn't be the self. Therefore, the one is not different. So giving a definition of the self to show the one, or, hey, can it have parts? And Aristotle says, why can't it have parts? Why can't the self have parts? Like a nose and things. Well, is a part a many? Yeah. Are we after a pure one? So can a one be many? No. So there's a conclusion about the one, therefore the self can't have parts. That's the dialectic. Aristotle says, well, okay, that's... At the end he says, so therefore, now that you've come to the conclusion, what do you think? And he goes, I don't think that's likely. I don't think that this is the self. I don't think it's likely that this is the self. And instead of doing midwifery or dream analysis on Aristotle's problem, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I'm going to break down all other possible perspectives or views, understandings or states of mind you could have about the self, one by one. And I'll show you how each one of them can't be true. And in that mix is Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism and Nazism and MAGAism and liberalism and Marxism. All of the possible isms are in there. And they all fall short to the one self. The self logos, which transcends all experience and all not understanding, but all experience and all experience in being and the physical world of becoming. Giving us a complete map or paradigm of the self logos and all of human history and all of psychic or spiritual development. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
So that's the Parmenides that he's talking about. This guy here, this conversation here, the greatest book never read. And you can check out the playlist on the Parmenides on our YouTube channel if you're interested. So I went from 3 viewers on Twitch to 1 viewer. So I guess people didn't like hearing me talk about the Parmenides. Oh well. Socrates. The work that is the cornerstone of the followers of mine is Plato's Parmenides. I shall follow their lead and be guided by the same approach. We will need the last philosopher in the Athenian Academy, Damascius, whose teachings ended at the Academy when Emperor Justinian fuckfaced the Christian emperor closed down the schools of philosophy in 529 AD. I have already mentioned that Plato clearly stated that it was through dreams that I received insights into the divine. He went on to say that it was through oracles and dreams that I was commanded by the God to follow my practice. Most importantly, he said it was through dreams that one can recover what one does not know about one's own past, present, and future. However, he did not, nor did those who follow him, stress the philosophical significance that the role of dreams plays in human destiny. His understanding, excuse me, adds much. So Damascius's understanding adds much to the primary riddles philosophy seeks to understand and experience. So there we go. Homer, Xenophanes, Parmenides, Diotima, Big Dog Sock, Plato, and then these 3. Proclus, Plotinus, and the final one, Damascius. That's who we're talking about. And then Fuckface McGee, Christian Emperor Justinian, came in and ended the game. Boo. So that was what he just outlined, and we wrote it on the board for your convenience. Hooray to me. So here are the primary ideas that we want to develop as a question and carry it in our soul, in our inventory, in our question sack. What are the big questions to give birth to? Let me break it down for you. The primary ideas of our philosophy are the one or the good self. Next, the idea of the good or that brilliant light of being. And finally, the soul, or the nature of the soul. Remember those 3 circles? The problem, of course, we can fully appreciate. For if the one is beyond all categories or qualities, how the fuck can it be the source of that which can only be described with superlative categories and qualities? How can this, which is independent and transcends all qualities, all experiences, all categories and qualities, how can that, which transcends it, so doesn't have qualities, it's beyond some mysterious way, how can it be the cause of that which we can only describe with the greatest qualities, beauty itself, justice itself, etc., etc., feasting with the gods? That's the first big question. Are you puzzled? Next, equally, that which can only be described with superlative qualities and categories, the union of all of these categories and qualities, how can that be then the source of that which is fragmented into an innumerable manyness? So the big questions of causes. Once we've read this book enough to be able to draw these pictures, because the book bangs, how can this cause this, and how can the whole of this cause that? Which is where we see manyness. Many puppies, many birds, and I mean flying birds, not broads.
They're completely lying to you. If you're experiencing a mental health episode, we don't want to have to see that.
I'm sorry.
Is this chat full of dumb cunts?
Oh Lord.
Hey, whoa. Who asked you? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's go ahead. So how can that cause that? How can that cause that? 2 big puzzles. Now, add to that the idea in our philosophy that there can be a return from the manyness to the one. The philosophical quest is for each soul to make that journey to that source of all sources. So, third big question. How does this cause this? How does this cause this? And we waking up on planet Earth with our parents playing God King and our religion playing God and our politicians playing King, filling our minds and souls with nonsense beliefs. How can we overcome those beliefs to make this journey back? That's the third big question. Considering it's the quest or the meaning of life. To return from the manyness to the one. The manifestation to the source. The effort to render some rational account of these 3 big problems is one of the goals of philosophy. It is not just for cleaning up metaphysical problems of logic. No. This kind of reflection is the meditation that leads to the doorway of spiritual vision. See? So, this model here we've been talking about, this lineage we've been talking about, where we are here, and the 4 aspects of the dialectic that we are to recover and can recover because of this mythology. Socrates brings together in those 3 fundamental problems of cause and return. And if we can understand those questions and make them our own, that is a kind of meditation that brings us to the doorway of those spiritual jumps, making it a meditation as well. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-
Very good book, huh? Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say? I would. Jesus would too. How could I possibly disagree with that, says Jesus. Certainly, these are the ideas for both of us, our work and practice. Whether you are a believer or you've let go of your beliefs and you just love understanding, it's your work anyway, for all of us. It's our work and practice. I say that because my followers stressed the need to believe in the primary triad of Father, Son, and Spirit. At this point, it may be that there is only a slight difference between your use and mine of these ideas. What then are the ways Damascus linked these ideas together? Can I expect that Damascus has a major place in his philosophy for the nature of dreams? Ooh. I ask that because of the importance you place on the study of dreams. Now, we have seen several times already today the importance of dreams, the significance in our culture when we lost dreams with Plato, the significance of Pierre Grimes discovering dreams and its relationship to dream, necessary relationship to dream analysis, allowing him to be able to read what Socrates left, and bring those four aspects of the dialectic back, allowing us what we need to fulfill our purpose and save humanity and save your soul. So, dreams are so freaking important. We haven't really gotten into dreams on this channel. It's a bit of a tricky one. One, because it's part of our job here on the channel to write the manual. Everything we learn in our reading of midwifery and in our reading of these texts, philosophy, we need to put together and write the book on dreams. That's one of the tasks Pierre left for us. Also, it requires people to bring a dream and be in the game and genuinely interested in reaching their excellence and removing their problems. And unfortunately, I don't have people in my group or my channel at that level yet. Maybe one day soon. But we'll keep that on the back burner because of how important it is, over and over again, stressed. Write a letter to your congressman saying, this Awakening Philosophy channel needs all of the Twitch chatters. Evil Hassan Piker is stealing many of them. And even more evil Asmund Gold steals the rest of them. Give them to Awakening Philosophy. No! He did not place importance on dreams. Well, have a major place for in Damascus did not have a major place in his philosophy for dreams. Even though he did see that dreams, like divine visions, are truthful. Wow. I heard from the sage Orpheus. He said that Damascus recognized the eternal inner spark of the divine pours itself out in full glory, outdazzling the world of becoming. is it not interesting that Damascus acknowledged that the divine luminosity could be fully realized in dreams? Ooh.
Wow.
Wow. Surely, while that is a major insight into the role of dreams and inner visions from the realm of the intelligible, he did not bring this insight into the system as a whole.
Talking about a bunch of slop.
He was talking about a bunch of slop.
It's a total shit show.
It was a shit show.
Here we go.
Jesus. If he had made a place for it within his philosophy, would it have brought his own thought to a higher unity? Ooh. And could it add to the puzzle of the relationship between the soul and the intelligible or the intellect? This, remember, the relationship either causally from here to here, or in our return from philomathesis, loving learning, to philosophy. Ooh, if we saw the role of dreams. Ooh. Could it? Still, he did advance your system, so he is among those who have confirmed your vision. And he can be added to those who advanced your work. So confirmed the vision and advanced the work of Socrates. It is no small thing that he added that divine luminosity also comes in dreams. Oh, okay. He said that. As you know, I have a keen interest in this subject. And as I know you do, since we both have entered into, as you know, I have a keen interest in this subject. What subject? Divine luminosity that can come in dreams. And I know you do as well, since we both have entered into the divine luminosity. Here is Jesus confirming that both of these bods reach this one. And of course, the story of Mark is Jesus retreating to his beliefs. And the story of Socrates in the symposium is him going in this way. So you could say that's the key. Just as us murdering Socrates is the key turning point in human history, causing a diminishment in Plato and then these three, and the fall into Aristotle, into modernity. So too, could we say, well, a key distinguishing feature between Jesus in the story of Mark, in the Gospel of Mark, and Socrates is, while they both had that luminosity, the symposium says this is the starting point of beauty itself and truth, from which you can go on to develop actual true excellence of the self. Whereas after Jesus' luminosity experience in Mark, he has visions of, has a conversation with Elijah and I think Moses. Let me find out. Moses and Elijah. And then he gets wrapped up into his religious beliefs and thinks he's the next coming, and so on and so on, and plays out his tragic problems and all of his stories after the check it out if you're interested. If you've been influenced in any way by Christianity, it might be worth having a look to help free yourself or help gain insight into the culture you're in. What are the parables of Mark like before his divine luminosity, and what are they like after? And how do they reflect these two fundamental issues we're here to address? Beliefs, or belief-based cognitive thinking, and understanding. Because Jesus went, and Socrates went, wee. So that's the difference, and we. That we've got all this in the book, by the way. Book bangs. Book bangs. So much. Sweet Susie. We have fun. Let's move down. So we've both entered that divine luminosity, so we're both interested in it, Socrates, says Jesus. Yes! Yes! Yes, Jesus, yes! You are correct about that. The problems that I mentioned are interrelated, so gaining an insight into one may afford another insight into the others. But before we go forward, it would be best to first open up and discuss what this problem is. Then we can see if what I put forward will allow us to say the puzzle has either been solved Okay, these problems, I guess the three, they're interrelated. One will open up the others. But let's discuss what this problem is. Then we can say if what I put forward will allow us to say the puzzle has been solved, or that we have advanced it a step in that direction. Looking at these puzzles, we talked about those three. How does the one cause being? How does being cause becoming or manyness? And how do we return? Can we solve that puzzle, or does it bring it in the right direction, allowing us to understand the luminosity? That's the mean term. The middle term, from here to here, and then here to here. Sound good? Yes! Yes, Jed, it sounds amazing!
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
It's perfect and exactly the case, Jed. What Socrates told me in my dreams. So did we advance it or solve it? Would you say that's a fair way of going, Jesus? If so, we may have to return to Plato's Parmenides. Good thing Jed did a quick review of the Parmenides, even though it caused 2/3 of his Twitch viewers to leave. That one person remaining, he's really going to have benefited from that review, if we are returning to it. You do mention Parmenides quite often. And that leads me to ask you, if he had a teacher, who was he? Ah! Good thing Jed did that review to help people demystify the big names in philosophy, because they might know the answer before they even read it. Fuckface McGee, Proclus Plotinus Damascus, Plato, and then Aristotle. Socrates, Parmenides and Diotima, and Parmenides' teacher. Xenophanes. The earliest one that we have words from. Yeah, I owned this before him. Xenophanes of Colon. Gross.
Where's the passion, dude? We're talking about a bunch of slop.
It's a total shit show.
It is in the colon.
Whore much?
Jesus. Colophon.
He better not. I think it's so awesome.
Colophon. Xenophanes of Colophon was Parmenides' teacher, and it was he. Oh god, I wish I hadn't tried to make sound drop jokes out of that one. It didn't work. It was Xenophanes who held that God is one, and he said it's the whole of God that sees, hears, and thinks. Here we go. there were those who sought to see that very thing in themselves, and they all subscribed to the Awakening Philosophy channel. They went around and asked themselves those very things. And it was this that brought them to philosophy. Is it God one, and is it the whole of God that's seeing, hearing, and thinking right now? Staying with these sayings throughout one's life, like a koan, they came to see that the mystery behind those sayings can actually be realized. Holding this question, you can come to see that you can actually realize the mystery. And in that realization, they saw what must be seen. What must be seen? The whole of God, for one. He started what Parmenides developed into a very profound system of thought. It became the object of contemplation for many. Of course, we don't have to pick favorites. We can take Xenophanes' question. Is God one, and is it the whole that is seeing, hearing, and thinking right now? And Parmenides' development into the dialectical exploration of the one. Take both. And also, if you're lucky enough to find a partner or a friend, or people who are also in this game, you can develop that in a relationship with love and logos as well. So you can take all three. Yes, it is good. I would enjoy seeing how Plato's Parmenides can be used to open up this problem and through it see its possible solution. So, maybe we'll leave it there. Next time we're going to open up Parmenides. Oh, should we go a little bit further? No, I think there's enough for today. Big one today. Next time we're going to open up Parmenides and see if we can add to these three mysteries. How does the one cause being? How does the being cause manyness? And how does the manyness, or us as individual beings or souls or beings or noodles, return back to the one? And how is this, how do we do those three things? And how does Parmenides add to that puzzle? And building on the idea that we can carry with us at all times the question, what is the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking right now? And see if it affects you, affects your psyche. So, important review, bringing everything together. Our system of metaphysics, or ontology, is the fancy word for what are the levels of being or dimensions that you can experience. That's ontology. We touched a little bit on epistemology, which is just how do you think? Is it beliefs? Is it understanding? Is it knowing here? Is it understanding and knowing or wisdom? Or is it a state of transcendent clarity and purity of the self-logos that's beyond even wisdom or phronesis? We have our historical lineage we looked at today. We have the 4 parts that we can do. And we also looked at why we're in our problems in society and why we're able to reawaken philosophy. So, win.
It's a win.
Whoops. So, good reading. Thank you for joining us in the chat, the new chatters. There were 3 today. That was exciting. And I hope you're excited for next time, where we're going to open up Parmenides. Did a bit of an explanation, and you can go back to old videos where we read the Parmenides on the channel. You can find them in my YouTube channel. There's a playlist there if you want to check that out. And on those videos, you'll see a link to the Balboa translation of Parmenides, so you can read it properly for the first time since Emperor Fuckface, Emperor Justinian, burnt the books and killed the philosophers and shut down the academy. So that's exciting. You can follow along on YouTube, you can follow on Twitch, you can join the Discord, you find a link to this text below, and you can buy the book, of course. And if you want to donate to the channel, it is greatly appreciated. There is a link below. And I will see you in the next one. See you in the next one. Bye.